segregated too, because like I said, it's a maximum security penitentiary.
Right.
It's a class 4 maximum security penitentiary where they got the death house at.
That's where
that's where the executions are held.
Okay.
And like I said, the only people that's out roaming around on the compound is the guys who are there to work, who lived in Unit 6 at the time we were there.
I see.
So
I see.
everybody else is on lockdown.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when the kitchen cooks the food, you have to deliver it to the lockdown units, and they feed them on the units. And so, like I said, you made what probably about 200 guys that's working there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That lived then. So those are the only people that was out free roaming.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting because it wasn't just that. We had our jobs to do, whether it was landscaping or the kitchen or painting or a teacher's aide or whatever, all the jobs that was offered.
Yeah, working for
but it's something,
or some clerk's job, or,
I think it was awesome that I was able to find myself at this facility because of people like this. Because this guy right here, he's a motivator, and he's motivated. He gives diligence in his efforts. Whatever he does, he's doing it right. And I always loved hearing him speak. He always spoke intelligently. He was giving back. He's started an organization, a ministry, and it's called what?
Crosses for Children.
Yeah. He was the president for
Project New Beginning.
Project New Beginning.
In fact, I wrote the curriculum. I wrote the curriculum.
That's all right.
For the Developing and Improving Life Skills curriculum they teach at River Bend now. I wrote the initial curriculum. They've made some changes to it over the years, but I wrote that 30-week curriculum. And the only reason it's 30 weeks is because they only give us 1 hour a week to do the class.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I facilitated it for 3 years, trained some people to do it, served as their organization's president for a year, graduated probably the largest class that ever been graduated because we let everybody come. Yeah. And they had strict guidelines. I sat down with another guy and we wrote the bylaws for the program, and a disciplinary manual, so that the state could understand that what we were doing was serious, because we had to sell it to the state and the governor's office and the parole board, so that we could get credit for the program that we was doing. And so when these guys graduate through the Developing and Improving Life Skills curriculum from Project New Beginning, they would receive certificates from the governor's office. The parole board accepted the Project New Beginning's curriculum as a therapeutic community program. Instead of sending a guy away from River Bend to another prison, they would allow the Project New Beginning. If he graduated Project New Beginnings, they would accept it as a therapeutic community program.
That's cool.
So
yes,
we had some things going on there that was positive at River Bend, and I was just happy to be a part of it because I got there like in August of 2004, and they were struggling with organization and putting the program together, and they didn't have a curriculum at the time, and so I sat down and wrote them one. They didn't have, at that time, because I'd been doing a lot of work in recovery, because I worked the Alcoholics Anonymous program, and so I knew a lot at that time about what it would take to put a curriculum together. Yeah. And so I sat down and wrote it.
Through service work. Are you familiar with the name Reinhold Niebuhr?
I've heard that name, but I'm just, somebody asked me that just the other day.
The Serenity Prayer.
Yeah.
God grant me the serenity.
Oh yeah. I just didn't.
Yeah, he wrote that, and we were talking about Adam about that because Reinhold Niebuhr was on the board of directors of a school in Grundy County called the Highlander Folk School.
Really?
Yeah. Back in the day, his student was a man named Myles Horton who started Highlander Folk School, and that's where Rosa Parks went before her bus ride.
Somebody was asking me about the other day, but I'm very familiar with the Serenity Prayer because we do that in the program.
Yeah.
Opening meetings and closing meetings sometimes too. We use the Serenity Prayer.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that, and that this school was where actually Rosa Parks came and Martin Luther King came in Grundy County. And I didn't know that before I started this story, and we were talking.
I didn't believe it at first.
Well, that's some history that I don't know.
It's an interesting thing. It's a period of time.
Right.
Back in the day, it actually got closed down in 1961, but it did exist for a while here.
My grandfather met Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King both. My grandfather had a cross burned on his yard.
Is that right? Come in here. Sit down here. Who are you?
Who are you?
I have been looking for somebody like that because...
I am Paula Rose Sanson. My maiden name is Rose.
Okay.
My grandfather told stories that he had to keep secret for a long time. He's alumni, you can look him up, 1908 at the University of the South, but he kept going to school long after for various things. He went to the Highlander Folk School and learned things like how to farm better, and they thought he was crazy because he turned his cattle loose to feed on winter wheat, saying it'll make it better come summer. It did. Okay, he also remembered that Eleanor Roosevelt came to speak on that mountain to the coal miners. People got the rumor out it was a communist school.
Yes.
Okay, later in life, on old black and white TV, Martin Luther King was on TV, and my grandpa said, "There's Preacher King," called him Preacher King. And my grandma said, "Oh, that's a different man." He said, "No, I'm telling you, that's the Preacher King that I met out at Highlander."
Oh my goodness.
Okay,
That's incredible.
And then one day Rosa Parks was on TV, and my mama said, well, bless her heart, that poor old woman said, I guess she did get tired. And my grandfather, Jim Rose, said she wasn't old. And my mother said, oh, I think she was old. He said, no, she was young. He said she was on the mountain. Said that bus strike was planned at Monteagle. Said it didn't just happen like that. It was planned in Tennessee that she was going to go back. And when the opportunity presented itself, it would happen.
Yeah.
Now, he couldn't tell people all the things he did. He went to the Franklin County Board of Education, and they were giving their old textbooks. It was after a time when they bought the textbooks. Before that, students and parents bought them, but the state and county was buying them. Well, they would give the old books of the white schools to the black schools. Mm-hmm. My grandfather showed up and said, look, your separate but equal's going to fall apart on you if you keep doing this. Now, secretly, he wanted it to merge together, but he was trying to lead them one step at a time. So they thought, well, if that's going to happen. Now, I didn't know this. This happened before my day. Then later on, when I grew up and as a teacher, I was talking to a lady. She said, where did you come from? I said, Alto. I was a Rose. She said, was a Mr. Jim Rose kin to you? I said, that was my grandfather. She said, well, I was going to the Old Townsend High School, and when it rained, it'd be up my leg in that floor, and our textbooks were missing pages. Then the next one year we got all new books, and they said a Mr. Jim Rose that was a white man from Alto had gone to the school board and threatened a federal lawsuit if they didn't do something about that. So, yes, there was a lot that went on. Now, the cross burning happened because he had two black men living upstairs in his house that were working for him. And back then, when they farmed, they had to come in and eat their meal. The wife of the farmer prepared a big meal for everybody working. They ate with everybody else. That is what he figures got the cross burned one night on his house. But he never stopped pushing the cause. But that's what I know about Highlander.
And this is during when the Jim Crow laws were in effect, right? And that was illegal, actually. Right. And you had people in Grundy County ignoring those laws.
Yep, you did.
And I thought that's pretty fascinating. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I've been looking for somebody with that personal experience.
Right.
Yeah, the all going on. And
wow, what a personal experience. You've never talked to her before?
No, I've been looking for somebody who had
I can tell you several war tales about my great-great-great-grandfather. They threatened to hang him because he wasn't going to go fight for the Confederacy. He said it was a war for rich men because you could pay somebody to fight in your place.
Right.
And he is a poor dirt farmer. He didn't care northern or southern.
Yeah.
But they came to him and said, some people from Winchester, and said, you will fight for the Confederacy, or we're going to hang you from that tree in front of your wife, and he had 3 little children. Yeah. So he left, and he left the legacy, never fight a war you don't believe in, you'll die either way. He's buried at Shiloh in a tree. Well, one of those children was a little boy that tried to follow his daddy and almost drowned in Rose Creek. It's named Rose Creek after him. And that little boy was saved by his mama. She found him. He grew up to be the sheriff of Franklin County later on. Had 14 kids in Roark's Cove up here. Oh, I got history up the walls.
Without May Justice, are you familiar with her?
Yes.
And she was part of Highlander. She testified
Yes.
for Highlander, and now the library is named after her. And she was the author of, I think, some of the first integrated children's books. How many people know that, do you think, now?
I don't know.
You know, I wonder.
I don't know.
It's kind of a history, I think, that got forgotten, but it's really heartwarming, I thought, you know. Yeah.
But it didn't all happen in Sewanee. Sewanee has up a big plaque, but my grandpa took a beat. Oh, he also got the first black to vote at Deckard. He took his big farm truck, like he hauled cattle in, every black he could get in. That was when you could register to vote the same day you voted. They went to Deckard, they voted. And now they voted all of them like he wanted them to, but nevertheless they got to vote that day. They all got a good drink of liquor that day. They all voted Democrat that day and got a good drink of liquor. Let me tell you, Jim Rose was something, and he would go to Nashville and at the state legislature and tell them, this bill that I want passed will pass, or I'm going to turn all these cattle loose, and Nashville's going to have the biggest damn traffic jam that ever happened. One day he really did turn cattle loose. Them old days are gone.
Wow.
I wish I'd had his politics.
Yeah, that's tremendous. That is tremendous.
But the black people did get to voting.